Hey, today I want to tell you about my time at the trucking company that went under a year ago, Yellow Freight. You can say this is my prequel to my present-day trucking journey with Schneider. So without further ado, let's get started. At the time when I first joined Yellow Freight back in March of 2023, I was a school bus driver, and as you can imagine, I wanted out of that. The money was shit and the kid aspect of it speaks for itself. I might make a video about that experience. At this time, I was so green to the whole CDLA and B thing. I thought the two coincided with each other. The bus company I worked at actually trained people to get their CDLB and become bus drivers. I figured I would train with them, drive for them for a little bit, and get on about my business with a trucking gig. Well, that plan was over pretty much before it even started. The company I worked for, their buses didn't even have air brakes, so I passed the CDL road test in a bus without air brakes, which, gives you an air brake restriction on your license. Most CDLB trucks have air brakes, which I didn't know at the time. This is why it's important to do thorough research on endeavors you want to partake in. I didn't really realize this for real until I would go on Indeed all the time, look for CDLB jobs, and see mostly all of them required air brakes endorsement. My slow ass figured I can just go to the DMV, pass the written air brake test, and I'll be Gucci. All that did was give me a CDLA permit. That's when all the shit started to make sense to me. I figured now, okay, I might as well see where I can go with this. I knew I needed over 160 driving hours behind the wheel with an accredited school, and I knew in my heart I did not want to come out of pocket for training. At this time, I was struggling pretty heavy. Like I said before, the school bus checks were dirt, and I was already behind on bills. And I couldn't do the whole grant thing, because I did it already years prior for welding. Might give y'all a backstory on me being a welder in the future as well. But anyways, I go ahead and sit on my CDLA permit for a little while and continue to drive the little heathens in training to school. I knew I couldn't sit on it for too long, knowing it expires in a couple months. Someone actually mentioned to me that there were actually companies out there that would train you for your CDL as long as you drive for them an X amount of time. So you already know I take my ass back on Indeed and have my search as CDL training or trainee. And what do you know? I see a posting from a company called Yellow Freight and I see Dock to Driver program. Sounded very interesting. I click on the posting and liked everything I saw about it. They wanted you to work the dock for 3 months and then they'll train you to become a truck driver after your services of working the dock at one of their terminals. It was a part-time gig too, which was crazy perfect, because I was actually able to remain a school bus driver while I did this. Not to mention just being able to train for a forklift certification too was also a major plus. So at orientation, we go through all the safety stuff and we make our schedules. I had mine set from 8 p.m. to 4 a.m., Friday to Sunday. Forgot to mention I was on call, so if they needed me to come in on those days, they would call me. If they didn't need me, they wouldn't call. So everything goes as planned. I had to call off at my bus gig a couple of days for orientation and training, but it all worked out. I had 2 jobs with the opportunity to expand to one career in the future. What made it even more perfect was, after the 3 months were up, it would begin summer break for the students, which meant the transition was smooth as can be. However, I have to say, my time working that dock was not enjoyable. I was stationed at the Chicago Heights terminal and it was always loaded with freight. Not only that, but it was cold as polar bear coochie at that time. I was freaking miserable those nights. There would be days where the freight would always work against me. I'd try my best unloading the freight from a poorly stacked trailer just for the stuff to fall over. Then, you have to stack the freight back onto the pallet and find some plastic wrap to get it back together. And Yellow kept old-ass equipment, so you have to hope you get a decent forklift or your day is going to be more trash. I was too thirsty for the 3 months to come to an end so I could start my CDL training. For you dock workers out there, you have my respect. Dealing with the freight was simply not for me. At this time, I had no idea what Yellow was going through financially. I couldn't even tell. The freight capacity was crazy, so that gave me no impression this company was in financial hell. But then, I started to do my homework on the company. I would go on Reddit and see how people were saying the company was in debt and how they had to get a $700 million bailout from the government. I saw people saying it was only a matter of time till they locked their doors. I didn't really think much of it for real, but little did I know. But fast forward now to my CDL training. I get emails from the recruiter on starting that process. For those who don't know, Yellow was extremely accommodating with their arrangements. They got you a rental car, provided a hotel with none of that roommate nonsense, and they provided a food card. You were in full possession of the rental car. At the end of the week, we would check out of the hotels and go home. The training was in Indianapolis, so it was like 2 or 3 hours for me. The meal cards were definitely a luxury. It was $300 and they refilled it at the end of each week. You combine that with the pay we got from training, we were seeing close to $900 a week. And I think the training lasted 3 weeks. That first week was all videos. That stuff was grueling. There were multiple chapters and sections of the videos, and they came with questions at the end of some of them. If you got the answer wrong, they would make you watch the video again. So yeah, we didn't even touch a truck until the following week. Another thing I really liked about the experience was the class size. It was only 4 of us that were training, and there were 3 trainers. They were okay, but could have been a little better. They all seemed to have some country in them. I remember one of them sounded like old boy from King of the Hill. I think his name is Boomhauer. But one would stay at the area where you practice backing, and the other 2 would take you for drives, which I dreaded because one of the trainers lacked patience, and the trucks were old-ass manuals that had over 1 million miles on them. And that's not even an exaggeration. I know some of you are Billy Big Rigs out there and feel like real truckers drive manuals. Fuck that. I'm going to be 100% honest here. If manuals were the only standard and automatics weren't a thing, there's no way I would be driving trucks today. That added stress would not be worth it. I don't even get why you would choose that over an automatic. When I first got introduced to it, I felt like I had my wires crossed in my brain trying to adjust to the goofy stuff. You have to step on the clutch to move this joystick up and down, like, what the fuck is this? Doing this while driving doesn't even feel safe. I remember when I was with my trainer at Schneider in Coraopolis, and he was saying how he thinks manuals are better because they keep you more in tune with the road, opposed to automatics where you can coast a little more. And I'm just like, that's BS. The road keeps you in tune with the road. Like, come on, you're old heading. I will gladly hold my auto restriction with pride. I will definitely take driving a truck without the worry of grinding or missing a damn gear. The goal is to get the load to the destination in one piece at the end of the day. My bad, I had to rant about that a little. But yeah, me being trash at working the joystick along with me being horrible with backing led to me not being able to finish my training in Indianapolis. They sat me down and told me I wasn't progressing like the other trainees, so they felt like there was no way I'd be ready to test in a week. So they wanted to get me more training time. At this time, I was blue because I was actually starting to get the hang of it a little bit. Before they sent me home, they had me bobtailing around the yard, practicing my upshifting and downshifting, which they probably should have had me do sooner, but that's over with. Now they have other plans for your boy. The recruiter hits me not too long after this and is able to move me up north to train in South Bend like a week or 2 later. Sounds crazy to say I went up north to South Bend, but anyways, I was not feeling the setup when I got there. It was more trainees and the CDL practice lot looked cramped as hell, but it actually wasn't that bad. They had 2 trucks. One truck guys would practice their parallel parking, while the other truck guys would practice their straight back and offset. I never mentioned as well that the trailers we practiced with were 26 feet. Some of you might think it's easier with a short trailer, but I don't think so. They get away from you a lot faster when backing. When I was there, the trainers were unaware I came from NAP. I didn't even let it be known. I didn't want the expectation to be advanced, just because I barely trained a week 2 weeks ago. Wasn't happening. I rather them had seen me as a fast learner opposed to someone who've done this before. I had went along and watched all the videos again and everything. When I got out there, things started to click a little more. When I was in Indianapolis, all I could do was straight back. I couldn't offset, and I didn't even really make a real attempt at parallel. I became a pro at straight back and offset in South Bend, like I was helping out one of the guys I trained with to get better. I was executing parallels, but I wouldn't say I was proficient. When it came to driving, I did good driving around the yard with a trainer. I showed him I knew how to switch gears and everything. I just wasn't able to build up that trust for him to take me on the road because, unfortunately, my time, the other trainees' time, and the trainer's time came to an end. Right in the middle of training, we were called in the classroom, and we had got on a video call with one of the coordinators. He had explained how the training had to be discontinued due to the union people not coming to some sort of contract agreement with the company. It was like a Thursday or Wednesday, and they had a deadline to come to an agreement by like Sunday. But everybody knew it was wraps. They sent us home that day. They gave us the option to stay at the hotel till checkout, or we could check out immediately. The people who had tests scheduled the following week were still able to make that date, but that was it. Shit had me blue. I was just getting better and I was feeling myself. The coordinator dude wanted us to go up to our home terminals for some type of meeting, but that was over with. I remember when the recruiter called and told me the news officially, and she sounded like she was gonna cry on the phone. I felt like I blew a major opportunity to get a paid CDL without having to fulfill contract agreements. If I were to get my CDL with Yellow, I was going to have to stay in service with them for 2 years. If I were to stay on track and pass when I was in Indianapolis, it would have been the best finesse in history. I could have gotten that CDL, got the news that they went bankrupt a couple weeks later, and I could have went anywhere I wanted, or at least any company that would train new CDL holders. I felt like I blew a nice opportunity to get a CDL without owing anyone anything. But I was able to get my hazmat because of them. I went through the training with them and was able to go DMV and take the test. So that saved me a little cash. After that, I didn't know how I wanted to go about it anymore. I actually looked into Schneider at that time then. But I seen the reviews on Indeed how the pay was dookie. So it swayed me away a little, but eventually I humbled myself as far as going with them. Plus, I had seen the big upside in going tanker division. I looked into KLLM as well, but they turned me down for some reason I can't remember. So I had returned to being a school bus driver a whole nother school year. The lesson I want you guys to take from this is to always do thorough research on companies you apply to. Be aware of their financial situation so you'll know what you'll be getting yourself into. In this case, however, getting laid off could have worked in my favor in a nice way. I can't even say I would have been more focused if I had known what I know now, because I feel like I was focused at that time. I mean, I probably could have went over my pre-trip a little more in the hotel instead of playing 2K, but I didn't feel like it wasn't too detrimental. I was just trash when it came to the stick, and to be honest, I was little intimidated by the truck. So yeah, my confidence just wasn't fully there to begin with. The extra time in South Bend helped out significantly with that, but I must admit a lot of things that I seen with Yellow Freight had me drawn. Free health insurance, good home time, pension, etc. I thought I was on my way. I really did like the accommodations of training. Some of these other companies should take note. But in hindsight, it's probably one of the reasons why they got in deep debt. Who knows? Anyways, that's all I have for you guys in this one. Until next time, be safe.